Today we got a 2005 Volvo S60 and we're having some headlight issues on the low beams. I don't know if any of you guys have ever had a Volvo before, but some of these vehicles do have issues with their low beams. You might see a message, something like this. You get the low beam failure, which basically means low beam light is out. Now the bottom light, the one that's on now, that's just a little small bulb, but that's not the actual headlight bulb. I don't know if you can see it on here compared to the other side. That bulb is actually on. Now these vehicles do have issues with their electrical on their headlights. The S60 models, I've had a few of them and they've all had some form of issues with that low beam failure. Sometimes it's just the bulbs, they get really hot. Something with the electrical on these cars, I don't know what it is, but they just seem to go out. They'll go out, one will go out, then the other will go out, it'll be a couple months and then it'll go out again. Sometimes it's just the actual bulbs. I don't know what Volvo did where these bulbs seem to run hot all the time and then they end up blowing up or going off or whatever. They stop working. The other issue is the connections. If you've owned a Volvo before, the connectors are horrible. When you take them off, they disintegrate, they break. There's just too much heat. I don't know if in the engine compartment that's causing them to break. I actually had an issue with this car on this same side, which I've already repaired 3 or 4 times. Most of the time the connector's just kind of loose inside of there. So I don't know if there's some kind of an issue of a break inside the actual plug itself. So today we're going to actually replace those plugs and I'm going to put brand new bulbs in there. And let me show you what we're going to put in there. Today we're going to put the Silver Star Ultras in there. We're going to replace the low beams, which are the H11s. I believe the H9s are for the high beams. I haven't had issues with the high beams because I don't really use them, but we're in California, so we don't really use a lot of them. And then these are the connectors. So we're going to go ahead and replace the actual plugs. And what happens on these is these side pieces usually break. I'm not sure if this one actually has this tab on the top, but sometimes those break as well. It's basically a 2-wire setup. One's power, one's ground. So what we're going to do is once we pull the old plug out, once I unplug it, I'm just going to test to see which side is power and which side is ground. And then I'll know which ones to wire it to. Now there's a couple options here, the way to wire it. We can either use wire nuts or you can actually use crimp caps. And my initial thing, I was going to use crimp caps, and then I said, well, I don't know if I want to do that. So what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to actually solder the wires in, so I'm having connection issues. That way I have a solid connection, and then I'll go ahead and put some shrink tube over it and heat that up. That way I have a really good connection, and then I'll have brand new plugs going into there and brand new bulbs. Now you're going to need various tools. I'm not going to go over all the tools that you're going to need. You'll just see me using them as I go along. I'm definitely going to use some gloves because I'm going to get kind of dirty in here. Now there's a couple options in here on how to get in here to do these. It's a very tight fit in here. Like literally to get in here is very hard to get your hands in here and try to turn the bulb out and get it out. I did it yesterday. I was able to get in there without having to pull anything out. And then the passenger side one, same thing. This one's actually I believe it's the one in here. This one, it's fairly tight in here. I was able to get it out yesterday. I was able to put a used bulb that I had just so I could at least have a light, because this one was out yesterday, the other side was working, and now it's the opposite. So this bulb was actually burned out. This one I hadn't replaced in a while. So I'm going to try to go in here and take this apart, get this cover off of here, and then you have to slide this box up. When I tried to do that yesterday, it was actually zip tied on the bottom, so I'm going to have to cut that zip tie. I don't know what happened, who did that on this vehicle here, but there's down on the bottom in there. I don't know if you can see it or not. Well, I don't know if you can see it or not, but there's a zip tie down there that's actually holding this box in place, and I don't think it's supposed to be like that. And then we're gonna go ahead and try to hook it from here. Make sure we keep these down. We don't want to move those out of the way. or get them to unplug. There's one clip here on the side. Anyways, we're going to try to get that out so give us a little bit more room in here so we can actually turn the bulb. I'm just doing that for you guys. I can get in here and actually replace that without having to do that. But in case you're just having a harder time trying to get that bulb out, which is really hard to turn on these. These ones are a little bit easier because I've taken them out so many times, so it's a little bit easier to get them in and out. And then on the driver's side, all this has to come out to be able to get in here without an issue. So you can have a little bit more room to work. It looks like a lot. It's not. I can actually take this apart in less than 5 minutes. It's real simple. All I do is I unhook this piece from here to get that off there, and I'm going to show you all this. Okay, you pull this air vent off. I just pull that away from you, get it out. You're going to take this hose off of that exhaust area right there, and then we're going to take this screw. We're going to loosen it up, and we're going to take that hose off. Okay. And then we're going to pull all this air box up. Now, if you're not going to turn the key on, then we can go ahead and unplug the mass airflow sensor right here. We just unplug it, and then we can take that and move it completely out of the way. If you don't want to do that, then basically we can take this air box and just kind of fold it over and just move it out of the way and not unplug that. If we're going to put our lights in and test it, make sure that this mass airflow is plugged in. We do not want to get our check engine light to come on because you don't have it plugged in, and then you have to worry about having to reset that and all that. That's one way to do it, okay? And that's the way I'm going to show you today. The other option would be to remove the whole bumper cover on the front, which would mean taking off all these little clips here. Now, these have all been replaced to a different type of clip. I think Volvo uses some kind of a different style. I replaced these because they were all shot, so I just put a different style in there. So you would take all these off. There's this cover in the front on each side that pops off, and then there's a bolt in there, and the same thing on the other side. And then in the wheel in here, there's one. I can't tell what it is from here, but there's a bolt right up in here that has to come off, and then this unhooks. If you have the fog light version, which this one does not, this one has covers on the fog lights. Then basically what you do is you'd have to unplug those fog lights once you get it out, and then you have to lift the vehicle up, because on the bottom of the vehicle there's clips, like push pin clips that have to come out. So I don't want to go that route. I'd rather go this route, having to take this whole thing off. Now, taking all this off, you basically, once you get the bumper cover off, there's another panel that's got to come off, and then there's like a couple of bolts here for the headlights, and then the headlight comes completely out, which eliminates having to take this apart or take that apart over there. Having the headlight out, you can actually have a little bit more access to turn and take the bulb out and get it out. But to me, I think it's a lot more work. So I'm not going to go that route. I've been able to take these off in here, and I think we can go this route and go this way. I know at least on this side, if you have a hard time, you can probably get some pliers and actually turn the bulb. It's just getting that bulb and grabbing it. Basically, be grabbing this bulb and kind of turning it. Okay, guys, so the first thing we want to do is we want to take this bolt, we want to loosen this bolt up right here off of this air vent right here. Now you just want to loosen it up, and then you want to pull the hose off, and then get that. Put it to the side because you don't want it falling down. We'll take that off there. Plug the mass airflow sensor right here. Push down on the little tab, and then disconnect it. Push down on there and then disconnect that. Move that aside. Down here on the bottom, you have this hose that's like an aluminum hose. Just take it off. Just push it back and just move it to the side. And it's just going to come off of that area right there. Okay. Once you go ahead and take off these 3 little tabs here, we're going to go ahead and take off the top of the air filter box, and there's 2 hoses right down here. Okay. One of them's coming from the bottom. That would be the one that's closest to the fender, and then the other one is like a long one that's just coming up on top. That would be the closest one into the engine compartment. So go ahead and move this to the side. And you can take your air filter off. Be a good time to clean the box once you get the box out. And if the filter is dirty, replace the filter. Okay. Now the next step would be to go ahead and lift up on this brake vacuum unit and just take it off of the top of this box. Okay. And then now we have this air vent right here. So this one I've taken off quite a few times. It comes off pretty easy. I just kind of pull out and then unplug it from down here. Just kind of like pull off of the actual ground part of it. I mean, if you want to pull it all the way out, you can. This one didn't have any clips in there. Maybe it's supposed to have a couple of clips holding it in there, but I just pulled the whole thing. I mean, obviously, if you can get in here and just pull it off of there, we can do that. Or even take this off, put that piece back in there, and then slide it in. But normally, I just get it down in there. Once I got the air box out, I'd slide all this right back in there. Move that to the side. And this has like 3 kind of holding pieces. All I do is just pull up like that. And the air box is out. It's that simple. So now you can see we have the opening here. Here's one of the vacuum hoses. And then the other vacuum hose actually stays on the air box. Okay? And then this air box is kind of it's a little bit dusty. Just put it on the ground and then just kind of bang on it and let some of that dust come out. That way we don't have any dust in there. So now that we're in here, now what we're going to do is we're going to pull this cover off and we're going to get to the light. So now that we're in here, we want to go ahead and pull this little plastic cover off. We want to make sure we're on the right one. Yeah. We're trying to go to the outer one, which is our... Now if you don't know which one it is, you don't want to turn the key on right now because we don't have the mass airflow sensor plugged in. So we take this little cover off. Set that aside. And now the hard part begins, is where we have to actually turn this so we can have a little bit more room to get it out. So now I don't know if you can see in here, but I have a bunch of tape in here trying to hold this thing together, because I believe one of the clips did break on this. It did. I'll show you in a minute. So if you look at right here on the side, this clip's broken on the side. So this thing wouldn't stay in there and it would shut off on us. So what we're going to do now, I'm going to grab my test light. I'm going to plug the mass airflow sensor back in here. Just because I need to put the key back on, like I mentioned. So what we're just going to do is I'm going to grab the box and I'm just going to plug that back in. I'm not going to show that, but the plug that we took off, we're just going to plug that right back in. Maybe I can't show it from the side right here. So just plug that back into there and then just move it to the side. So you don't have to unplug it, like I said. You could just leave it plugged in and then move it to the side. And so then now I'm going to grab a test light and then we'll go ahead and test this. Easiest way I like to test this, I mean, we have ground right here on the sides. So we could just grab one of these right here if our test light will stay on it. Just grab the wire. And then what we're going to do, we're just going to probe the inside right now when we turn on the key. And one of those should give us power. With the 2 wires coming out of it is actually the ground. So this one by itself is going to be the power, and then this is a ground for both sockets. Cut one wire at a time. So I'm going to grab I already turned off the key, so we're just going to eliminate this plug. Just want to see something really quick. Before we start cutting. I'll take the old one and see if this one will actually plug into this. And it does. Now, it only clips in from the sides. So this plug is actually designed for two different types of vehicles. It's designed for this style Volvo, and then maybe another one where that goes all the way and grabs up on top. But not on this one. It actually grabs and stops right there. So I'm going to go ahead and slowly remove that back out. Now I did get these plugs on Amazon, and then also I got the lights on Amazon too. So okay, so we'll go ahead and cut the first wire, and we'll strip that back, and we'll strip down the other one. So what we're going to need is a soldering gun or soldering type station of some kind. We're going to need solder, for sure. And then some form of shrink tubing. I just have this, I think I got it at Harbor Freight. It's like an assortment of shrink tubing. So we're going to see which one kind of fits on there, on the wire, before we solder it. Open that up real quick. And we only need just a small piece for this. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get 2 pieces of heat shrink tubing. Make sure it's large enough so that once you solder these wires, you're not going to have an issue. Okay? I'll go ahead and strip these wires. And then go ahead and put our heat shrink tubing on here. We're going to go ahead and wrap these wires. Try to wrap them together so that you have a connection, something like that. And then we'll drop some solder on it. Basically our soldered connection. Where are we at? That's basically our soldered connection right there. We'll slide our we'll slide our heat shrink tubing over the top of that, and then we're going to go ahead and heat that. If you have a little kind of a torch or anything, you can do that, but I just use the heat gun. Now you got a nice seal connection there. So that's one. And then the other connector, this one actually has, I'm sorry, the other side actually has 2 wires. So those wires are going to be a little bit thicker. So I'm wondering if, well, I think this will work because this was kind of a little bit big. So give it a shot. So I'm going to cut those. Now this is where it's going to get fun because these wires are going to start to get a little smaller. Harder to, this one's actually harder to get in there. This one actually goes to the other little light. I guess if you really wanted to, you could actually take the other light out and make it easier to solder in. Sorry if I'm getting in the way here because I can't barely even see myself. So I got the 2 wires peeled back. Hopefully you guys can see that. what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap both of those together, kind of twist them, that. I'm going to get this other one. This one I'm going to peel it back just a little bit more. Make sure we get our heat shrink tubing and put that on before we can make the connection here. And then we're going to get those and we're going to twist them like we did the other ones. Now I could have probably just grabbed them, put them all together like this, and then just put solder on them and then just put some shrink tube on the top of that and heated them and just got like a point. And that would have been probably simpler. I might do that on the other side because I don't have as much room as I have over here. In fact, I don't have any room on the other side, so I might end up doing that over there. So you see our connection right there. We're going to go ahead and drop some solder on this. Now normally I would tin these wires, but since we're twisting them together, I don't want to tin them because then I can't twist them. I tried that before and I had a mess. The connection was way too big, too fat for my heat shrink tubing. You just heat up the wire and then some solder. Make sure that you're getting the solder all the way around. Get our heat shrink tubing, put it over the top of that connection and heat that up. So now we have our connections there. I'm going to go ahead and get our bulbs. Now, real important with the bulbs that you do not touch the actual bulb. That's why I'm wearing gloves. The oils from your fingers can actually ruin the bulb. So we want to go ahead and get this in here. There's one direction. It has a little slit right there. That slit goes to the bottom. And these are ceramic connectors. So we're going to go ahead and just put this down for a second. Get this to stay somewhere so I can... Right there. You guys see that? You guys see that right there? So I'm going to turn the key on, make sure the light lights up. You know we got a good connection. And we do. Okay. So the next obvious step is to get the bulb back in there. Now, I'm going to get those wires, kind of tuck them into the side. And what I like to do on this is I like to look at the front of the headlight as I'm putting this in. In the front of the headlight over here, I could actually see, if you look here, there's actually 3 different little tabs. One of them's fatter than the other one. So normally on these, I believe it sits in here kind of, like I was telling you, probably like that, like almost horizontal when you put it in like that, and then it locks into place going straight up and down. So as I look in there, I could usually see the slot right in the front, and if I could see all 3 of the little metal tabs, I know that I'm actually straight, and then I could actually turn it. It makes it easier if you're looking from the front than to try to look back here to put it back in. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and try to do right now. If we can. So So as I was trying to explain to you guys what I thought was the right way to go in there, was that the light goes in this way and then it turns completely like this to lock down. I guess on some of them it does. On this one it doesn't. At least on the driver's side, it's going in probably like if this was flat, the actual socket's going in like this, and then it's actually going and it's lining up horizontally when it locks in on this side. We'll find out if the other side is the same way. Don't want to give you wrong directions here, but normally these they lock straight down, but this one for some reason doesn't. I'm looking at it, and that fat tab is at probably 3 o'clock, 2 o'clock, the fat part of the light. If you're not understanding me, is this fat part right here sits at, like if it's going facing me or facing you, it's at like 3 o'clock almost, as a clock, in reference to a clock. So as you're looking in the front, that's what you're looking at, roughly at that spot. Okay. Now sometimes what's hard is that the wire, the actual wire that you just hooked up, wants to get in the way. I'm telling you, this design that these guys did is horrible. Okay, so it's probably sitting like at 2 o'clock, and it locks down at like 3 o'clock. So if you see that tab on the top, that's the thinner one, and the one over here on the right hand side, it's that one right there. That's the fatter tab. So it normally sits a little bit higher and then it goes down and locks into place. So you're turning it counterclockwise to lock it into place, which is weird on the driver's one. We're going to find out if the passenger one is the same way. Okay, so next step, we're going to go ahead and put our cover back on here. Basically just a rubber cover that goes on there. And actually, we're going to do it with a little tab facing up. That way, in case we ever have to take it off, we can grab it and pull it out of the way. So that's that. So now, next step is to go ahead and put the air box back in here and get all this put back together. And then we'll move to the other side. We're going to grab our vacuum line and get it and move it out of the way so it doesn't get impeded in there. And this big old clip thing here is going to clip on to here, okay? Just so you know. So we're going to go ahead and slide that down. Get the air box to line back up. Basically has those like 3 mounting tabs on the bottom. We're just going to line those up. Push that down into place. Make sure that that hose right there, that silver hose, that you put that back on. Now forget to put it back on. Okay. That air box back down in there. Grab your air filter, put that back in. We're going to go ahead and grab our top of our air filter, and we got to push it right back into these 3 slots here. This is the hardest part of it all, okay? It might be easier to unplug the mass airflow sensor, just so we have a little bit more of an angle to get it in there. Now the angle has to be really hard. Get it in there, and then what you want to do is you're going to go ahead and pop it in there, and you want to make sure those three are completely in there. Okay, so it's going to move this out of the way, and don't be shy right here to push down on this hard, because this one actually went in easy. Connect your two vacuum lines behind the air box. You're going to hook up these two vacuum lines, one here, and then this one was already on the air box, so that one's just going to plug in on the right hand side, and then this one's the long one that runs over there. Go ahead and plug in your mass airflow sensor, snap that back into place, and then we're going to get our bracket, put it back on here. Get our bracket, put it back on here first. And then we push it back on to our mass airflow sensor. I'm going to put you back where you were. On there. And then just make sure that that hook that hook that was holding up the harness, that you hook that back on, so that your harness isn't dragging and it's on top of the transmission. Okay. There we go. Okay, so we just clipped that hook piece that was holding up that one harness back here. We can go ahead and just lock this down. These three snaps. Let's go ahead and put this piece back on here and hook that back on there. And then the last piece would be this. Now, if you want to take it off, I don't know, I think we can get it in there. Pushing it in there. And then just lining up the front right here. Make sure that's in there. And then just make sure up here in the front of the car, when we're putting this thing in, that in here that you're actually putting it on to the front of that vent part. There it goes. It went right in there. You see that piece right there? It shows us that it went in there. Make sure we're still hooked up back here. This is still all the way in. It's sitting in there nice and snug. Put you down for a sec. Make sure once we line up the front over here that this is still sitting in there like it's supposed to. It's real important because the car needs air, and that needs to be right on. There. Then we just need to tighten up this top bracket. Now if you look here, there's some markings on here. This marking here is actually a marking for right there, so you want to make sure that those are kind of lined up. And then the bracket, I just like to kind of pull it forward. When it tightens up, it's actually on a spot where I can get to it. Double check, vacuum lines are in. Mass airflow sensor's plugged, this is plugged. We got this back in, box is in, this is hooked, this is there. And make sure that vent's back on there. And then that harness on the bottom. I'm sorry, not the harness, that hook piece is actually lifting up part of the harness so it's not sitting on the transmission. And we're pretty much done with this side. We'll move you over to the other side and see what we got to do there. So now we're working on this side of the car, on the passenger side, and there is a cover right here. Now, like I mentioned earlier, we can try to get in here and see if we can get that bulb out. But just for, I guess, educational purposes, we're gonna go ahead and try to remove this sleeve on the box. So first thing you do is we just take the cover off. It's got a couple push pins here, and then that comes off. I already had that one off. And then on the side here, there's like a little clip that releases one side of it. Okay, and on this side there's actually another clip, and that's actually being held down by its zip tie for some reason, which it shouldn't be there. I don't know if they broke this clip on this side, and maybe that's why it's holding that in there. But let's see if I can get this out. Now we don't want to move these. We want these to stay in place. So you kind of have to tug and pull on these. See if I can get this out. It's just the top cover. Okay. There's another clip up here in the front, I think. Man, this is tight. I see a clip there, but I don't know how it comes off. There it is. Okay. Okay, I got it. Okay, so on the two side ones, you push the tabs in like that. On this one, the front one, you're going to push towards the front of the car. It's a small, little, tiny tab. And then you're going to hold this down as you're slowly pulling up on these. A little bit kind of hard. One tab's cleared. That one's cleared. Now it's just all a matter of kind of pulling and pushing down on here to get it out. You don't want to move the computers, man. Damage the connections on those computers. And then we got the box out. So on the front of it, there's a little tab that actually hooks on right here. So you push away from you. That's the one on the front. In front of this, there's actually a clip that kind of clips like this. You got to push it away to get the front off. And then the sides, basically you just push in, and then you're just trying to wiggle it out by keeping the computer down. Do not pull up on the computer. You don't want to mess up the connections on there, okay? Super important. So now we have a little bit more room in here. Not a lot, but a little bit more room. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to actually unplug this harness here. See if I can unplug it. Just to move it out of the way because it's kind of bothering me. Yeah. I'm just going to unplug that to move this over here. And move that over there. So now I have a little bit more access in here to get to that cover. We're working, guys, over here. So there's a little cover, same thing. We're just going to pull and get it out. It's a rubber cover. This one's the harder one to put in there because there's like part of the that base that we took off. There's kind of like an angle there, and this has to kind of slide in there to get in there. So the next step is going to be to get that light out, which I'm going to obstruct your view a little bit. Which you're probably going to see. Now this one here, passenger side, it actually starts off like I said, almost like, I wouldn't say completely horizontal. So this one, actually, when you put it in, it actually locks down straight down. It is weird. Why would you make them different? I knew it locked down straight down somehow. That was the last one I worked on, so I know I remember putting it in. It was kind of like that, and then when I locked it down, it was straight down. And it's... I wonder if it's a type of bulb, maybe. Because this one's a little different. Let me show you. No, they're not different. My bad. They're identical. I was going to say. It'd be kind of weird if they were different. So this fat part right here actually sits like that. So if you're looking at it from the back side, it's kind of sitting like that. So the one on the driver's side locked up like this. It wouldn't even go down. This one actually goes down to lock. It doesn't go up. Oh my God. A little bit more tricky because it's harder to get in here. So as we tested the other side, we realized that the one single wire was the positive one. Now we're going to double check it on this side. We want to make sure that that's the same. So I'm going to have to plug this harness back in just in case it is for a light or for whatever else it might be. We're going to go ahead and grab our test light real quick. We're going to turn on the key. On the side of the car over here, there's actually the same kind of grounding point. So we can just go to the ground. I'm going to grab one of those. I'm going to grab the single lead. And that is positive, which is good. So it's going to be the same as the other side. We just wanted to double check. Plug this harness again to get it out of the way. Cut one of these wires, which is the positive one. Go ahead and strip it back. Now, this is where I was talking about. It's a little harder to get in here to do this. So I was thinking of a different way to do this. I still wanted to solder in my connections, but I think I was actually just gonna wrap it up like that. Just twist wrap it and then go ahead and put a solder piece on there. Actually, if I bend it, okay, I know what I'll do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually twist the wires together. I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. So what we're going to do is essentially twist the wires together, solder them, and then flatten it out, and then put our shrink tube over the top of it. That's what we're going to do. Maybe I should have did the other side like that. It would have been so much easier. So make sure we put our shrink tube in first. Don't forget that. I'll put it in after. Twist them together. Solder this. Bring that down. Slide that over. The next one, I've got to take the other two wires, cut those, get that connector out of there. I missed the trash can.
I can play basketball. Okay. Strip that back. Now the second wire is it's kind of short, so it's kind of harder to get in there. So you really want to kind of get this in there got like really one shot to kind of, you don't want to mess this up and it not grab. So we're going to go ahead and do this. So basically all I'm doing here, guys, is I'm just getting all the wires and I'm twisting them together. So taking the ground side of the plug, the black wire, and twist that in with the other two wires. And then we're going to solder those, okay? Now, I need my other piece of shrink tube. Ah, you guys thought I forgot, huh? Yeah, I almost forgot. Slide that through. Got those wires together. Basically twisting them together. You guys in here so you can see exactly how I'm connecting this, but I'm just twisting the wires, guys. I'm not doing anything fancy schmancy or anything like that. I just can't angle my tripod to get you right on top of me here. See the wire right there? All it is just twist them together. That's all. And then I want to solder it. Okay. So now what we're going to do is just going to solder that connection that I just twisted together. And then we're going to flatten the wire down so I can slide my heat shrink tubing over the top of it. Hopefully it fits. Very. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and heat up heat gun. The heat shrink tubing. Okay, so we got that. I'm going to plug this back in. I'm going to plug in a light bulb. I'm going to test it before we put it back in. So it's got a little slit right there, and it's got a slit there, so it only goes in one way, guys. I'll try to jam it in any other way. I'll turn the key on real quick. There we go. Lights up. Now comes the fun part. So we're going to unplug this again. On this out of the way. And then we're going to try to line up, try to get this light bulb back in there. And this side's going to be tougher than the other side. Even though the other side was a little tough, this one's harder because you don't have a whole lot of room to get in here. Like I said, I like to get to the front, line up the fat area to the inside around 2 o'clock. I got a clock. It will be somewhere like that, which means at 2 o'clock this is going to be sitting like this almost, okay? This is the metal side that's over here. It's going to be like that if you're looking at it from the back side, which good luck if you can see the back side. Now, you can see a little bit. Got it in there. That's gotta push in further. Now, sometimes the harness, the wiring, kind of gets in the way, and it blocks the bolt from going in all the way. Again, this is a terrible design by Volvo that did this. Oh, crap, I didn't see that. Also, it's got to go inside the little filament thing that's there. There's like a white. I think it's supposed to sit inside of there.
Before, and I mentioned it several times because it's really, really important, is that when you're putting this bulb in, that spot there has to sit like that as you're putting it in. Once you get it in there all the way in, then it locks down straight up and down like that. That's on the passenger side. The driver's side doesn't do that. You get that positioning right and you get it in there and lock it into place, then you're good to go. I thought the driver's one was the same way, but it wasn't. It actually sits in there differently, so I don't know why. Because I'm looking at it and it is completely locked into place, and it is not sitting, you know, facing up and down. You know, it's actually sitting sideways, so I don't know why. It's weird. Anyway, sometimes you can't question stuff. It is what it is. Next step is going to be to put the cover back on there. Make sure that the little tab thing is up towards you. And again, it's going to be a little tough on the bottom trying to get the lip of it past that edge, because you'll know what I'm talking about when you get in there. It has it just kind of push down and then rotate it and get the tab on the top where you want it. Get stuff out of the way. And then the next step is going to be put this piece back on there. Just be careful getting around this little spout here. And any harnesses that might hit, so just kind of move them out of the way as best you can. Get around them. And then these have little slits right here and here. You got to make sure those slide in on the computers, okay? That's how you're able to line it up. One line's in on one side, one line's in on the other side. What's going on? Be a little careful with the spout hose for your thing. It likes to get underneath that. There we go. There we go. There. Seal back in there. In, and then this clips right back here, and we're done. If you have any questions, hit me up. Thanks for watching.